Hello, I'm Neto, and we are here for another Behind the Actions episode. And today I have here Aza. Hey, how are you doing, Aza?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And thanks for joining me. And just introduce yourself to our audience. What you do in our team? What's your daily basis job?
Sure. My name is Aza, and I'm an engineer at Developer Relations for Google Assistant. My main duty is provide some tooling for developers to improve their productivity.
Cool. So all the cool stuff people are using on their development, you kind of have some responsibility on that, right?
That's right. Yeah, you can think of it that way.
Or you can have fault. No, I'm kidding. So, so today we're gonna build something on top of the digital goods platform, right? So, what is digital good in terms of, because when you say purchase, there's so many different ways to purchase things, right? You have different things you could purchase from an action. So I know that we have some kind of different products, right?
Exactly. We have, if you use digital goods, it will automatically allow your application to be available on 2 billion services that currently support Assistant, including smart displays, phones, Google Homes.
Headphones.
Exactly.
Yeah, and for example, when we say kind of product types, for example, we have the one-time purchase, right? It's some products that you purchase once, and maybe you can purchase again. I'm gonna explain this a little with more details in a few seconds. But also you can have subscriptions, right? I think this is the two main categories, you could say.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and then on the on-time purchase, we have for example, the consumable and the non-consumable products, right?
Yes, consumable, non-consumable.
Yeah, can you explain a little bit what the difference between these two products?
Yeah, so you can think of consumable products as purchases that can be done over and over and over. So for example, if you buy currency in the game, you can repurchase it as many times as you want. Versus non-consumable, it's something that can be done only one time. So for example, let's say I want to buy a specific feature in my app.
Or an expansion for the same game, for example.
Yeah, this is a good example of non-consumable.
Yeah, because then you won't, at least I imagine, you won't want to buy another expansion or the same expansion, right? And like a premium package. And then you don't need to take care about yourself about this. Google Play platform will take care about it. So if you try to purchase again, for example, and you didn't consume that product, we will say, hey, you can't buy this. But we'll explain this on the code a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said Google Play, right? Why I said Google Play? There's a reason, right?
Yeah, because in fact, digital goods are reusing the same infrastructure that Google Play uses for authorizing and performing all of their purchases. So we get all these years of experience to make the flow as seamless as possible for the users.
Yeah, and the great point is Google Play Store is available over almost 200 countries.
Yeah.
And each country, Google Play team has been doing a great job on finding the correct forms of payment for each country, so the users can use their own credit card, or they can use carrier billing, for example. But the developer doesn't care about it, right? Because it just offer the product, the user purchase the product, and then we receive the money from Google, right? So they don't need to care about accepting credit card, making contracts with credit card companies, right?
Exactly. It's all sort of done by Google with all the Google security and everything in mind.
Yeah, nice. And also the subscriptions. Subscriptions is also a very nice feature, right?
Yes. It's in fact my favorite one.
Nice. Yeah, because it allows you to, for example, set up some recurring purchase frequency, so people can buy a subscription to your news app, and then you pay every month or yearly or quarterly, whatever. And also there are some cool features, right? Like you have free trial, you can send invite codes, you have progressive price, so you can have introduction price. So there's a bunch of features, and also all the backends it's the same, right? The backend, it's the same backend you are using for Android. We're gonna use for the actions on Google, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So all the features that we already have available on the subscription part and the purchase time, the APIs management, it's available
out of the box. Yeah.
Yes, and this is great because then you don't need to develop this kind of thing by yourself. You can use this. And if you're already an Android developer, it's great because, like Aza said, you can expand your consumer market to over 2 billion devices. And this is very cool. So I can purchase something on my phone, right?
Exactly.
And then use the Google Home Hub, for example, to
actually use it.
Yes, and this is great. And if you're not an Android developer, you only have a few steps more than Android developer, right? You need to set up your Google Play account, right? And then you have to fill all the requirements from the Google Play. But again, we have all this documented in our documentation, right?
Yes,
So
exactly.
all the steps there, they can go set up the account. And after I have this account, if I don't have an Android app yet, do I have to do like pre-development steps?
There's a few. In fact, you have to set up brand verification in the console. That way, Google can verify that your digital purchases are essentially legit
Nice.
verified.
Okay. Yeah, this is interesting point because in our episode, of course, we don't have time to go through the brand verification process because it can take up to 48 hours, right? But we're gonna show you where you have to set up this and how the flow we're gonna looks like for you. And then if you have any question, check our documentation. You'll find all the details there. But yes, I think even we have this step of creating setting up the account, then they need to create an Android project, right? Because in the Android project we have the package.
Yes, exactly. The XML file that contains all the metadata about your app.
Exactly. And with this configuration of your app, you can use the same package. You need to use the same package in your Actions of Google backend code, right?
Exactly.
To match the same products. And you can have all the all the advantages, all the features pre-created for the Google Play Store to the Google Assistant.
Exactly. For example, you can ask an API to return all the available products that my Play Store supports. So in just one API call, you can sort of get it out of the box. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so and after you do this in your Android, you can just create this project in the Play console, go back to the Actions console. So it's kind of a long process, right, Aza?
Yes.
So we're going today to cover this in a good amount of time. We are using like how can I say a simplified version of your sample, right?
Exactly. In fact, I have a screenshot of what the conversation will look like with the user. I can show it now.
Yeah, sure.
So you can see here in the screen that.
Can you explain to us what's going on here?
Yeah. So this is essentially a sample interaction between the user and this sample app that we're building right now.
Okay.
So user starts the app, and the app asks the user if they want to sort of start to see what this Play Store has available for purchase.
So it's like I'm asking what products you have in your catalog, something like that. You can say that this is like the catalog, right?
Yes, exactly. That's a better way to say it. So you can see here I say yeah, and then app lists all the products that it has: premium car, unlimited gas, and so on.
Nice.
And then it asks which one does the user like, and then the user selects one of those, and it sort of goes through the flow of the transaction.
Nice. Yeah. And the good point is the user even don't need to leave the assistant environment, right? They don't need to complete the transaction their phone. If they already have set up the payment on the Google Assistant, if the Google Assistant, for example, if you're already buying videos, movies from Google Play Movie, you can use the same account because it's their credit cards or personal account to purchase this digital goods, right?
Exactly, yes.
No, this is cool because they don't need even to take your phone to validate something. It would do like the voice match. So the Google Assistant know who are you. So for example, if my wife tried to do something, we'll purchase on her credit card. If I try to purchase with my voice, with voice match, we'll purchase on my credit card, right?
Yes.
So yes, but we already said to the console that we are using the transactions platform, but we actually need to verify, like link my website, my Android app, because how the console will know that this action is related to my Android app or the Android project in the Play console, right? So what we're gonna do now is go to there's an option, advanced options, right? They can find, and then the brand verification.
Yes, exactly. So all in one console, you can configure the brand verification.
Yeah, so there's two steps. The first, you need to connect a website. So this is done using the Google Webmaster tool. So you need to go to Webmaster, check your URL there, right? Gonna be some instructions, upload the file, and then our crawler gonna link your website to your Webmaster tool account, and then you'll be able to connect the website here, right? And then after connecting the website, it's time to connect the Android app.
Yes.
The difference here is because you need to refer to the package name, right?
Yes, the package name from this app, from the Android app.
Yeah, and the point here important, we are not showing here in the Play console, but a similar process must be done on the Android side, because there to verify your brand, it's linked to the deep link configurations on your Play console. Okay, too much, but no problem. Look in our documentation. We're gonna link you to the right page where you're gonna check all this information. But just keep in mind that after doing all these connections, both consoles, Actions on Google Console and Play Console, they will understand that we are the same project, right? The same developer.
Yes.
So, okay, they have this. Because I said up to 48 hours because the first step in general takes up to 24 hours, and the second step takes another 24 hours.
Yes.
So, but up to 48 hours, you'll be able to start selling stuff. So if you need to sell something today, don't start this morning. So you need some 2 days to have this enabled. Okay, cool. But people want to see actual development, actual code. What we are... This is just like bureaucratic stuff, and we do only when you configure the project, right? So how you show the conversation, this is pretty good when the user asks about the catalog. Where are we gonna handle this conversation? Are we going to use Dialogflow?
Yes, so we'll use Dialogflow for natural language processing to make the conversation more intelligent.
Cool.
And then we'll use Firebase functions to set up the fulfillment.
Nice. So remember, we are using Firebase functions, so it means that we're gonna use the Node.js client library. But if you wanna use the Java client library, also this feature is supported under the Java client library, so you can use your preferred language if you don't want to use Node.js. Okay, can you show us can you go to the Dialogflow and show the intents you have and how you create this show?
Yes, sure. Like in the screenshot that we showed in the beginning, the user sort of starts the app by invoking it.
Yeah.
And this is handled in this default welcome intent.
Sure.
And
the welcome intent, did you change it to say, hey, you can buy stuff?
Yeah. So if we look at it, essentially that first prompt that we saw in the screenshot is defined here. After that, we allow the user to either start the building or the order or sort of quit. And that's what those two intents represent.
Yeah, you said a good name, build the order. So build the order is the intent or the way that user will ask for something to buy, right?
Yes.
So yes, please, how it works.
So essentially, it's the main the meat of the logic is handled in the web fulfillment.
Okay.
But this intent just sort of handles the NLU part.
Yeah, great part. For example, can you go on the top of the page here? Yeah. So I'm seeing here the phrases, training phrases. You add some let's go do it. Yeah, yes, of course, sure. This is because on the welcome intent, you asked if the user would like to purchase something, right?
Yes, exactly.
And then you are picturing the potential answers. But imagine the developers are creating something different and they want to handle something like, hey, I would like to see what's available to purchase. They should also add this training phrase or create another intent to handle different approaches, right? Just to make sure, just to make clear, because maybe someone, I need to do this on the welcome and just handle yes or no. But sometimes they need to handle like questions about what can I buy, what is available to buy, right?
Yes, exactly. That'll be the best practice.
Okay, good. So let's imagine here we have some this kind of phrases, and then you said the next step is just send these to the backend fulfillment, right?
Yes, exactly. So let's go to the fulfillment.
Yes, please.
Okay. So here I have just some starter code where I define constants and some imports.
Okay.
Let's actually create the webhook, the intent handler for that particular intent.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I already have this nifty constant defined for build order.
Cool.
And this is very standard client library code, as you can see.
Okay.
But essentially what I want to tell the user, hey, here are the options.
Okay.
Which one do you want, right?
Nice. So at this point, you're going to the Google Play Store API and retrieve all the products that's available and then tell about these products to the user, right?
Yes, exactly.
Nice.
So I can say something like, here's what I have available.
Okay.
And then, I can say those are the SKUs.
Okay.
And then which one you want.
SKUs, what is this?
So SKUs, you can think of them as your product IDs that you define in the Play Store. Typically, you define them first in your Play Store.
It's
and
like
then
the product ID, right?
Yeah.
The product reference. Yeah, all the product management is made through the Play console.
Yes.
So to add products, to remove product, or manage your product, you must go to the Google Play console. And there, you're going to add these SKUs. These SKUs are defined by you. So you don't need to remember. This is something that you have in your backend, that's some in your library. In this case, for example, Aza has as constants in the project. And like he's doing here, you can use our sample to extract some of these constants, some status, right? So they can take advantage of all this stuff done by Aza, right?
Yes, exactly. So actually, going back to the SKUs, I need to define them, right? So I created this function that essentially calls the digital purchase API and gets the SKUs. So it expects the conversation ID that you get from the conversation.
Nice.
And
can you show the code on the getted SKU? So just make some few comments so the developers can understand what's happening here.
Yes. So the get SKUs is right here.
Okay.
And essentially what we're doing is we first authorize with the API by getting the JavaScript tokens.
The tokens, right?
And then we make this request to the get SKUs endpoint.
So yeah, this is, for example, the fetch endpoints get SKUs is actually API call, right?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the get SKUs is this endpoint right here.
Exactly. And these endpoints are listed in our documentation, so it's kind of default. So you have all the endpoints, you have your product, your package name. This is why package name is so important.
Exactly.
Because I see that we are using here to create the URL.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, it's part of the URL.
So, and a cool thing, again, it's all JSON based, right? So it's just using JSON. If I don't want to use Node.js or Java, I'm using Neto's new language. So I can use JSON. And it's good because it's great because I can see that you can wrap this and reuse in other projects, right? Nice.
Yeah. So
okay, this SKU is gonna be returned as like a JSON, and the client library will return like an array, right?
Yeah. So this will be an array of SKUs, and here I just defined like quickly what the typical SKU would look like, so you can see all the properties and everything. Cool. So this will return an array of those. But we want to make it sort of as a list of strings to make it simpler. Sure. So I actually create another function that...
He's a very handy guy, huh?
build simple response. So So it just expects that, and...
What I'm going to do is just break this array in like title, description, and price.
And
right?
comma, between.
And a comma. Okay, so again, this is a sample, right? If you are developing something for production, please use our base cards, use carousel. You have a bunch of resources you can use to make it more visual. Mm-hmm. And remember, sometimes reading the product's name, if you have like 10 products on conversation way, it's not that good, right?
Yes.
So you can like do pagination. There's a lot of best practices you can check in our conversation design page in our documentation, but just keep this in mind. You don't want to read like 10 products available. You can showcase on a list or for example, say the number of the first three products and show the rest of the products in a carousel. For
Exactly. Yeah. That's in fact the best practice.
example. Cool. Yeah, best practice. So, okay.
Just
go.
one last step. We want to save the SKUs so we can reuse them later. So we store them in user storage.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're done with this intent.
And this is enough to have all the products available read it to the user, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's all we need. Just
Okay.
the code.
And when I hear the product list, then I can say, okay, yeah, I want the gas. I want gas, for example, premium gas. What is, because you offer to me, then I'm gonna say the name of the products. And do I need to create entity, or the assistant will handle this to me?
Yes. So you will have to create entity. Where typically, so the best practice is create an entity per product ID.
For product ID.
And
okay.
then, in fact, we can show you in the console. In the entities, we have the SKU entity that has all the product IDs we have in the Play Store and all the possible synonyms. So
Nice.
Dialogflow can sort of...
Yeah, and this is important because without these entities, the Dialogflow wouldn't be able to map what you are saying to what the products are available, right? And remember, sometimes you have also to localize this, so use the Dialogflow localization stuff, so you can create another language entity, and then you can add, for example, Brazilian Portuguese, Spanish, whatever, you can add here and add the variations for the name, right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. I said like premium. What's the next step? What the assistant gonna do?
Yeah, so, well, in the conversation, we ask the user, hey, which one do you want? So the user will reply to us with the SKU that they like.
Okay.
And this is done in the initiate the purchase intent.
Okay, so actually now we are starting to make the purchase, right? Until now we are just building the order. I like this name of the intents.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
like now we are actually start to purchase something, right?
Yeah, exactly. So in fact, in this intent, you can see all the highlighted portions are the entities that Dialogflow extracted.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, all the logic is done in fulfillment. So shall we go there?
Of course, please.
All right. So actually, one last thing in the previous intent, because this is the asynchronous call, we may have to do some.
Okay.
Okay, so let's define intent handler for initiate the purchase.
Initiate the purchase, right?
So again, it's gonna have a
Conversation and the SKU.
intent. Yep.
Okay. And this SKU that user said was mapped to the
SKU, the
SKU,
product ID.
the entities. Perfect.
Yep. So essentially, the client library provides this helper class complete purchase that will kickstart all the digital transaction flow with the assistant.
Yeah, this is the point. For example, this is something that I like very much on the Android platform and also on the assistant, is that as developers, we don't need to develop all these screens, right? For credit card verification, account, all this required, of course, because this is a security requirement also, because I need to validate my account, I need to check everything else. This is good because it's taken care of for us, right?
Exactly.
Nice. This will trigger all the payment flow, we can say that, right?
Yes, this will, as you can see, we'll do demo later. Yeah, it'll be.
Okay, I'm just curious. Yeah. Let's go.
All right, so essentially it takes a SKU ID.
Okay.
So remember how we stored the SKUs in the conversation user storage?
Yeah.
So that's where we'll actually use it. We're gonna
Nice.
fetch that SKUs from this storage and use that SKU ID.
And avoid us to make another network request.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So we have selected SKU that SKU ID. So again, as you can see, SKU ID is part of the SKU object. So,
yeah.
So that's what this line of code does.
Cool.
So how do you get this selected SKU? Again, there is a helper function find SKU by ID that expects conversation object and SKU.
Okay. Yeah, the conversation is necessary because then you need to close conversation or do something, right? You need to keep accessing the conversation. So it's
Yes, or for things like conversation ID or
okay.
yeah. And then I want to say something like, sure, here you go.
And then when the assistant say here go, it will trigger the payment flow, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
And one last thing we also need to store. We need to remember which SKU we actually purchased in this step. So
Okay, yeah, we must verify. We must store what SKU the user actually selected, right?
right, exactly.
So okay,
So, all right, so that should do for this intent.
okay. So after that, all the requirements will be done by the assistant. So if the product is declined, the credit card is not accepted, or there is an error with the product, how we can handle this status? Because I imagine now this. Okay, I started this point, but it won't go back to me and then I send back, right? This will be triggered by the own assistant, right?
Yes. Once we send this new complete purchase object to the assistant,
Okay.
This process will start with the assistant, and it will return us the status code with how the operation sort of went through.
And this will be triggered by an event.
That's right.
Yeah, so we have to map this event in our agent, right?
Exactly. So in the final intent of this agent, we have described purchase status,
Okay.
and it takes actions, intent, complete purchase event.
Yeah, this is very important, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, because if you don't map this event here, you won't be able to receive the result of the purchase.
Yeah.
And you will never know the purchase ID, the receipt. So it will be like a mess. You don't know that the user actually did the purchase, right? Okay. Of course, you can go through the API and check out the purchase, but on your flow, the user will get back to your action will want to respond to that. So it's not a good practice.
Yeah, it will be very good user experience.
Yeah. So great. So remember, add these intent to handle this event, but then we don't need to add training phrases, nothing, right?
No, nothing. In fact, all the sort of experience will be through the assistant. So it's,
Cool. So then you enable fulfillment, I imagine.
Yes.
And then go to fulfillment again.
All right.
And now you need to check what happened, right?
Exactly. So there's a bunch of status codes that API returns, and I have these constants that have all of them.
Yes.
So what we'll need to do is create an intent handler for describe purchase status.
Okay.
And then so the purchase status will come as an argument in the conversation.
Okay.
So we want to do access it through client library.
Find library, okay.
Yeah. So complete purchase value.
Okay, and this value for this name for the argument, it's also listed in our documentation, right? It's not something you just figure out. You check in the documentation, it's there, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
It's right there. And then the purchase status is part of this argument. So we do r.purchase status.
Okay.
And now essentially we need to match the status against all the API code. So
okay, don't need to go through all the status. I think it's not really necessary. But there's, for example, some status you can successful, right?
And maybe if you already own the item, so it will reject it.
Yeah, remember when I said it's consumable or not?
Yes.
So if you're trying to purchase again a product that's consumable and you didn't consume it, what's gonna happen is you won't be able to purchase.
Yes, this return code with the already owned item.
Or an item, yeah. So you need, So for example, imagine you are developing a game and you are selling coins and the user tried to buy more coin and you receive this status. It's your fault. It's not the user's fault. So you should, for example, consume this. We're gonna talk about consuming a little bit, and then you can consume this, and then you will be able to purchase again, right?
Exactly. Yes.
And also there are other errors, for example, right? The transaction decline. There's some other.
Yeah, the entire list is here. So unspecified, cancel, changes requested. So for example, user change their mind.
Yeah, this is very interesting. For example, this is something very cool. For example, imagine the user start a flow from your action, and when he browsing the product, says, okay, no, I changed my mind, I'm gonna buy this other product, something like that. You receive a notification that the order changed.
Yes.
So you must restart the order.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So just keep in mind. So like I said, we have like very advanced scenarios that are covered by the sample. So, but right now we are going on the happy path, like I say. So, okay, can you check? Let's check success and then put an else just to handle the other.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can do if status equals okay.
Okay.
And then maybe
Else.
yeah. If
something went wrong, and then
API codes.
It's not user friendly. Please don't say just something went wrong for your user. Please do the correct stuff.
Yeah. So here we check if it's just okay and owned. So we can say something like,
congrats.
Congratulations.
You gave me money. No, you purchased something.
Successfully purchased an item.
Okay.
Cool. And maybe you can ask, would you like to do anything else?
Okay.
To do anything. Maybe they want to buy something again.
I hope so.
Yeah. And then if it's already owned,
you can say,
here, we can say, sorry, purchase wasn't, the transaction didn't happen because you already own the item.
Or, for example, if I decide it was my mistake, and I would like to trigger a consume call. I know maybe it's not the right place to do this, but can you just show how is the consume call works so they can understand?
Actually, good catch. I made a bug in my code. So here, if purchase went through, this is when we want to check if item is consumable and then try to consume it.
Yeah.
So again, there is a function that the utility function that I wrote that can check if the purchase item is consumable based on the consumable IDs. And consumable IDs is something that you define yourself.
Yes, good point. Good point. Because remember, like we said, the products is defined by you. So you know what products are consumable or not. You know what SKUs are subscriptions. So if you want to keep these in your library or use your own API to retrieve these each time you do it. But in this case, Aza has an array, right, with all the products IDs because it's a sample. But again, maybe you want to do something because you are selling other platforms, you're selling cross-platforms. So this is the ID that you define. This is just to remember this. I think it's important.
Yeah. So in my case, it's just gas.
Okay.
Yep. And then if it is, then we wanna consume it. So do consume is again utility function, and it consumes this ID.
Nice. So what's happening here is the API will use that same endpoint with plus the consumable endpoint. Right? And then say, hey, consume this product ID for this package, for this user, because it's all linked. And then the product will be consumed. And then the user will be able to purchase again.
Yes. So that's how, that's a flow.
Nice. Okay,
then,
let's finish it so we can test and see if you'll be allowed to do the deploy dance. Do you know the deploy dance? Have you rehearsed?
Oh man.
Now you have to dance. Look, his.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he's kind of tense. I can feel the tension. Okay, keep going. I'm kidding, don't worry. Wait.
Okay, so if item is already owned, we just say it's already owned item,
okay.
And then if anything else, we just kind of return.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Never keyword something.
Yeah. Again, it's not the best practice, but for the purpose of the sample.
No. Yes. Of course.
All right. Oops. Okay, so I think that should be it. One last thing I just want to show in the code real quick.
Sure.
In the do consume thing, the do consume endpoint.
Sure.
Again, consume is an API call.
An API call.
Yep, and it has the consume endpoint provided by the digital purchase API.
Yeah, and this is important because you need to show the purchase token, right? This token, it's returned when you actually do the purchase. So imagine this purchase can be, I don't know, maybe the user purchased this a week ago and you are consuming only now because it was in his inventory and now you are consuming this product. So you must keep this purchase token, right? At some point in your application.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And then the do consume is just this.
Calling okay.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I think I've actually made a typo here.
Okay.
Fix it.
No problem.
So, all right. So I think it's ready to be deployed.
I want to see that.
Shall we do it?
Sure, please.
All right.
The audience is waiting, anxious for that.
Okay. So this is correct. And then do Firebase deploy.
Okay. I can feel his fear. So yes, this is the moment the demo gods will make some problem happen. But
hope not.
Hope not, yes, man. This is why we hired you. So, okay. So at this point, we are using we had the console, we had the fulfillment set that. So you are going to deploy this function. We can copy the URL, put as a fulfillment, integrate with the Google Assistant, and we can test, right?
Yes.
And can I test this only with a phone, or can I test on my device, or for example in the simulator? There's any special requirement since it's a purchase happening?
No, so you can use any surface you like, including the simulator.
Okay.
But in the simulator, you can specify that you want a transaction to be sandboxed, meaning that transaction actually won't happen. It'll be like a test transaction.
Exactly. This is the point. What is the sandbox? So, because I don't want to spend money with my own products during development, so how can I test and make sure that I'm not spending real money on that?
Yeah, so let's quickly, while it's loading, go to the simulator right here. And
you can choose, right?
Yeah, so here there's development sandbox enabled, and you can it's under $sign, so you can.
You are sure that people are not spending their money if you're doing this. And remember, you can use alpha beta releases to enable people to test. And when you have these users register at beta testers and alpha testers, you can add them to don't pay for the purchase. Right. So you can go on the Play console and add them as beta as testing users using what account they are using to do the purchase, and then they won't be charged. Yep. But this must be done in the Google Play console. Just remember, because this management, the accounts and testing, it's made through the Google Play console.
Yep.
Right. So let's see if it's already deployed.
Okay.
Whoa! So there's some. Can you dance? Deploy dance, man. No? Yes, it's working. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, you're too hard, man. So okay, it's working. So you have here your webhook. You want to copy these and paste there to integrate.
Yes. So we may need to get the URL from the Firebase console.
Okay. On Dialogflow.
Yeah.
So cool. This screen is very interesting because you are accessing the Firebase project for the backend, but I didn't see you creating a Firebase project. It's all together, right?
Yeah. So once you create your in Actions console or in Dialogflow, either way, it will create all the other
cloud projects, Firebase. Yes, cool. And here you could see the log, right?
The logs, yeah. I'm interested right now in the function name, the endpoint. So I'm going to go to functions, and this URL
cool.
is what I need. And then we'll use this URL in the Dialogflow.
Cool, the fulfillment part. Yep. Yes. So yeah,
it's already there.
It's already there.
Okay.
Great. Save. So time to test, right? Let's see if the code is working, if everything is okay. And for now, let's try on the simulator. I think it's easier to see all the conversation and the information here, right? So please.
All right. So we're going to invoke the app.
Sure. Here's the test version of Digital Goods.
Yes, you want to buy something? Okay.
Here is what I have available: premium car, trivial drive sample test, unlimited gas, trivial drive sample test, monthly gold, trivial drive sample test, yearly gold, trivial drive sample test. Which one do you want?
You see, this is like listing all the SKUs available, right? Yeah. So choose one.
Sure. Let's do the unlimited gas.
Okay, you have money, man. Okay. So now imagine you are saying...
Here's your order summary. Your total is $1.99.
Oh.
Ready to buy?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
sure.
Let's do it.
Yes. So let's see, my account is configured. I have money.
You're all set.
Good.
Your receipt is on its way. Would you like to continue where you left off?
Yes, let's keep going.
Sure.
So it's back to our action, right?
Yes.
No. Okay, so this is a cool thing. Do you realize that we changed some scopes, right? Because then we started the digital goods sample, and then the assistant take over to do all the purchase flow. And this is important because then the user knows that who is handling this purchase is the Google Assistant. So the developer, as developers, we don't have access to your credit card, to nothing like that. It's very confidential data. So, and this is why you hear these earcom sounds to make sure that you are switching context. So, and like we said, reading all these 3 names is not a really big user experience. So you could use like base cards and you could use carousel, something like that. But yes, I think we covered the basics, right?
Yes. We can try to, unlimited gas was consumable, so we can try to purchase again just to show it.
Good, good. Yeah, try, please.
Okay.
So let's try again.
All right, here's...
So I say yes.
Yes.
Here is what I have available premium
Unlimited
card.
gas again. So we are buying...
Here's your order summary. Your total is $1.99. Ready to buy?
Yes. What's going to happen?
You're all set. Your receipt is on its way.
So what
Would
happened
you like
here?
to continue where you left off?
Well, you go into their code and you consume that and you will be able to buy again.
Exactly.
This is why we were able to buy again. Because if you didn't do the consume before, like we have a kind of an error. You already bought this item, something like that, right?
Yes.
Cool, cool. So I think we covered all at least the basic stuff on how to do the purchase, right? How to build the order, begin the purchase, handle the status in terms of success, already owned items, something like that. But anything that you would like to highlight, like a pro tip for developers?
Yes, so it's kind of the combinations we already alluded to during the our conversation. One of them is always consume the items you actually want to consume.
Yes.
And then the other one, like you said, about very long list of SKUs, you would want to probably follow good design practice and maybe shrink it or show some rich responses if you have a screen.
Exactly.
And
make easy for users to say the name of the SKU, right?
Yeah.
And this point of just remembering, this point of consuming SKUs, it's very important because you may want to consume it as soon as you do the purchase to avoid like weird flows in your future part of your application. So as soon as you receive that, it's a consumable item, consume it. Of course, if you have a different logic in your app, it depends on user spending this thing on or like the credit you can do. But you always can, for example, buy this credit, these coins, right? And do your own inventory control. And then if you have cross-platform, like, I don't know, other smartphone platforms, something like that, you could say use the same credit. Like games are very common to do this, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, and if they want to see the full part, because here you use some helper methods to be able to finish this in 30 minutes. And if they want to see the full code and how to do all the retries and all this kind of flow to validate all kind of status order, where they should go?
They should go to our GitHub page and check out the digital goods sample.
Nice.
This contains the full code for how to do it.
Nice. And all the instructions on the README how to get it working, right, on their account.
Yes.
Good, good. Well, and if you have any question, if you find any issue on this sample, I sure Aza would like to take a look. So if you issue on GitHub, but also you can find us on Twitter. So we have our team handle that is actions on Google. But if you are building something cool, you want to share something with us or just give your feedback, please use the AOG Devs hashtag and we will be pleasure to answer you. And also now we started a new channel on Reddit, right?
Yes.
So people can go there to talk about assistant, the actions, some questions. And if you have more technical questions, I think maybe Stack Overflow is a channel, right?
Yeah, maybe a better channel.
Yeah, then our team is working there. So we are actually answering when the GDs and other people don't reply before than us, right? So, but yes, you can find us there. And this is it's very important to us. Remember to subscribe to our channel. Remember to give your feedback. What you are thinking about behind the actions? What else? What other topics would like to see here in a deep dive with our engineers? Okay, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.